Kupina kuphe emakhaya amadolobheni nasekoplasta khona lapho ubukela khona SABC 1. A warm welcome to this weekend's edition, or the week's edition of Yilungelo Lakho. It's your right. Silethela ke lohlelo mamba phambili SABC 1 Mzansi for sure. Siyatfolakala futhi na ku SABC Plus. Mina ke bekunene ngingiSimphiwe Ngcongwane. Asasingene endzabeni yethu namhla ke mayelana nalokumele ukwati ngekuthenga ke imoto lenemvela kuphi longayadi njengemthengi. Mbukeli, cars are stolen, hijacked or even crash every single day. So how sure are you that the car that you're driving or about to buy has hidden defects or a dodgy history? Well, believe it or not, the numerous numbers and unique codes all over the vehicle's engine, doors, and even tires can open your eyes to secrets about its state and where it has been. Now, to help us cruise through our topic today, let's welcome automotive guru Khaya Finger. She is the Chief Executive Officer of Car Chic. Agahambi yethu ke sinaye Nanduduzo Khala from the South African Tire Manufacturers Conference. A very good afternoon and a warm welcome to you too. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Greetings to you.
Great stuff. I'm going to start with you, Khaya. So let's talk about a VIN number. What is a VIN number?
I'd describe it like an ID. Like we all have personal IDs, a car has an ID.
Oh, it's the car's ID.
It's the car's ID. It's identification of the car. You'd find it on the windscreen. Most cars will be on the windscreen and also on the license disc. So the disc appears. It's funny because I know someone in the motor industry who didn't know where the VIN was, and I was quite taken aback because I said, just look at your license disc. Also in the door of the car, if you can't find it. And the engine has a VIN as well. The engine number. So
so the engine number and the VIN number are
no,
they're
numbers. Different. Yeah, they're two different things. So the engine will have a number and the VIN, but the VIN should be on the engine.
Okay, so isn't the engine number some sort of ID of the car?
So the engine number and the VIN number talk to each other.
Oh,
so if you change the engine, which can happen, you need to get a police clearance for the new engine in the car.
Right. So Nduduzo, does it happen ukuthi imoto ibe na two different numbers?
In terms of a VIN and an engine number?
Well, two VIN numbers or two engine numbers?
No, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be that. I mean, it's always an identifier, and you only get one in terms of a VIN number. And I think, as Khaya is saying, if you do change an engine, I mean, it should be that you then get a police clearance 100%. So that the two can always talk to one another. And if you get stopped by police or whatever on a roadblock, you are able then to produce the documentation to say the two are talking to each other.
So which other alternative place that I can get a VIN number just in case where my car is so worn out and it's not visible? The VIN number is not visible.
So the license disc. No matter how old a car is, it cannot be on the road without a license disc.
Okay.
The license disc, you know that green thing that the metro stop you and your disc has expired?
Right.
Your VIN and engine number is on there.
Okay. All right. So what are some of the ways that one can use to determine the accident history of a car?
Generally, I think also using that VIN number, and if it's linked to an OEM, I mean, all cars have a service history, so I think they will pick those issues out to say, this is the history of the vehicle. You've taken it to service at these particular dealers. I mean, I think we've now become so sophisticated in the sense that you are able to pick that up. And then I think it should give you some leeway in terms of understanding where the car has been, the history of it, how old it's been, whether it's been looked after. And particularly, I think you won't see it in tires per se, in how many times you've changed the tire, but particularly on the service history of the vehicle, I think you will get that information.
And then through a VIN number, how then do I determine whether it's been in an accident or not?
It's quite tricky nowadays with Puppy. So although Puppy's great because it protects us, remember, if I'm driving that car and you phone a dealership, you're giving my information away. You're telling someone about my personal car that I'm still driving. So it's not so easy nowadays. So, you know, and I think this is great advice, buying a car, choosing the right dealer is as important as choosing the right car, because it's not so easy to get. So you can't just pick up the phone and phone a BMW and say, well, tell me what panels have been replaced on this car. Well, who are you phoning? You know, I'm giving someone's private information away.
Okay.
So it's not so easy. Poppy does come into play. So I would say when you're buying a second-hand car, I would suggest, if you can get a full service history, even if it's not all at the agents, get a full service history.
Okay.
When it comes to panel beating, it's a little bit harder. Now I actually want to physically see the car. I want to feel the car. I want to go around the car. I want to see what it looks like. It's hard, but there's certain tricks to see. Has this car been in an accident?
So is the storage of the car's history computerized? The reason I'm asking this is that I could be involved in an accident, I fix the car and then I sell it, and then I tell the new owner that it's never been involved in an accident. So is it computed somewhere? Yeah,
but that information's not privy to anyone else. So it's quite hard to get that information, especially an accident. So although there are ways, you can't just get it. It's like a medical record. You can't just get it.
Okay.
So
yeah.
So maybe to add on that,
Sure.
It also depends, I think, on where you take the vehicle, I mean, for fixing. So, I mean, if you go to the backyard, I mean, I think you won't necessarily have a history of saying this was fixed, this was the problem. But particularly if you go to the dealers and it's above board in all of the dealerships, I think you would get that. However, I think, again, to Poppy, is that some of that information is not easy to get as a person purchasing the vehicle.
Okay.
But there is a log if you do take it to the accredited dealers.
Okay.
I think it's safe to say that 90% of used cars on the road have had some paint work. There's minor damage and there's structural damage. And it's important for people to understand the difference. Was the car towed in, or did someone bash my bumper and I got the bumper replaced? That's not major. That's normal in the motor industry. But did the airbags deploy? Did I replace every panel on the car? That's different. That's, you know, it's...
I'm actually glad that you raised the issue of the paintwork, because if I were to decide to paint my car, is that information reflected in the VIN or anywhere else?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
I can see when I look at a car. Also, if you feel the grooves between, like, say, the bonnet, where the bonnet meets the fender, you run your finger. If it's very rough, chances are it's been painted.
Oh, right.
If it's smooth, it's
Right.
factory. Also, color. I can see colors. You know, you stand far back, you put the car in the sun, you can pick up the colors.
Right.
Some people won't disclose, but I can see. Like, has this car been in an accident? No. Okay, but the bumper looks a bit...
But it looks different from the body.
Yeah, and then
you
you
can
know,
tell. Yeah, especially if you more privy to
gaps
such,
as well, gaps on sides of cars. So if this gap is smaller and this one is bigger on the back, so then I look for lines as well.
Then there's this code on tires. So some people say, you know, it determines the size of the tire.
Yes.
But some people actually say that, you know, it could tell you the history of this car.
So maybe just to come in on that, is that I think the side wall of a tire can tell you a lot of information.
Really?
In terms of the tire itself, but not necessarily where it's been in terms of the technical history. But you can get what we call a date of manufacture, which is the DOM, which tells you when the tire was manufactured. Maybe we'll get into that, I mean, I think as we go on. But the size of the tire, I mean, I think just to make an example, you get a 205, 16, 91. So that tells you, I think, the tire size that you have. So the 205 is actually the width of the tire. The 16 is the 16 would be the inch of the sidewall. And then let's say the R17 will then be the diameter of where the rim sits. So I mean, I think you understand that. But particularly on the DOM date, you get 4 numbers on there. So you'd find that it's 2119. So that would mean that it was manufactured on the 21st week of 2019.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think from there you can then understand to say how old the tire is in terms of when it was manufactured.
Oh, wow. Wow, you're onto something here, eh? So that's something that, you know, you've opened our eyes to something new that we've never heard before, eh? But thank you so much. Let's leave it there for now. Please do join us after this break. Leli, Yilungelo, Lakho. Samukela futhi mbukele tincingo tepha setivuliwe ukuthi nawe ngaba ingcenye yala nkulumo namhla. You can call us on our participation lines right now. The studio lines are open. You can call us on 011-714-0669 noma ke ku-011-714-0670. Ungasithumela futhi i-WhatsApp noma ke usithinze ku-Facebook mbukeli. Namhla ke sikhuluma ke nganathi inombolo emotweni yakho, nathi inombolo letinengi letinze. Uthola ukuthi ke ilapha ku-windscreen noma ke ilapha etikwenjini noma ke ilapha emathayini. Kuthi lethi inombolo lento ingabe tisho ukuthini. So namhla ke kumele ukwadi ukuthi leto nombolo leto kukhulu ke leticukethe ngoba tingakutshela leto nombolo leto ukuthi imoto yakho beyikuphi nekuthi ke ike yangena engotini nekuthi ke noma ike yatshontshwa noma ke yonke nje umniningwane lekumele ukuthi ukwadi imoto yakho ulapha ke kuleto nombolo leto kuthiwa i-engine number noma ke i-VIN number lapha efasitelweni ku-windscreen noma ke nathi ke inombolo lapha eceleni ke ecadzini ke kwelithayi lakho. So those are very, very important numbers that you should look out for. Namhla ke sidzingisa tona ke leto inombolo leto ukuthi ke ingabe tisho kuthini nekuthi ke tingakutshela kuthini ngemoto yakho. We've got our experts today and I want us to pick up on the conversation about the tire before we went to that break. Ukuthi ke ngiyakhona nikubona ukuthi ilithayi lami li-safe yini. How to determine if the tire is still fit for purpose?
Generally, I mean, I think we always advise on three things because I think you can generally see a tire, so you have to inspect the tire. And you firstly go to the thread of the tire, so that's the part that touches the ground. And it's got what we know as a tread wear indicator, small blocks on the thread, which indicate whether the tire is smooth or not. And once that tread wear indicator is aligned to the rest of the thread, then that tire is actually illegal. Or if the tire is completely smooth, or one of the side is probably smoother than the rest of the tire, that tire is then no longer fit for purpose. It's what we call a waste tire.
A waste tire, okay.
Yeah.
So what is the correct amount or number of millimeters, that is?
Millimeters.
Millimeters,
so
yeah.
The thread wear, probably 99% of the tires that are manufactured nowadays are that tread wear indicator is 1.6 millimeters.
Okay.
And then I think
is that the minimum, the legal?
That is the legal. So, and again, I think there's some regulations that we are trying to also update in terms of the National Road Traffic Act because that still refers to the 1 millimeter. And I think those are the old generation tires. The new ones come with the thread wear indicator. It's easy to then locate it on the thread of the of the tire. And then once that is equal, then you know that that tire is then smooth and you should be getting rid of it.
It is very important to note that should you, God forbid, you are involved in a car accident and then insurance start measuring, the grip or the threads of the tire, then if it's less than 1 millimeter, then the insurance cannot pay out because it was already at risk. So it's very important to point that out.
No, it is quite critical because, I mean, you find that people are in accidents and the first point of call. And I think according to the Road Traffic Management Corporation, which is the RTMC, there are 12,000 carnages that resulted in death in South Africa. And of those, probably more than 50%, the contributing factor, they cited as a tire, as tire issues, and a smooth tire or probably under or overinflated tire. So all of those things contribute to the smooth running of a vehicle or the tire itself. And again, to your point, insurances now look at those items to say, was the tire legal to begin with?
There's this process called retreading a tire. I'm sure you've never heard of that.
Never seen it.
And it's actually a thing, and it's very popular.
Yeah.
Yini retread?
A retread is the retreading or the putting on another layer of the tread element of the tire itself. It's allowed so long as the tire, when it was manufactured, it was made for that purpose as well, to say it can be retreaded. You find it generally on truck tires, and that's when we consider them because, I mean, I think it's a layer that is put on top so that they can continue utilizing the tire because, I mean, it's rubber components. Less so on passenger or smaller tires because I think now generally there's no longer a business case to do retreading. However, there are quality standards that they also go through.
But
in
is
terms
it safe
of that.
though?
It is, again, I think the determining factor is to say when the tire was made, it needs, and you always see it on the side or actually of the tire to say it can be retreadable or not. And then if they do that on a proper line, which is going through the right channels in terms of quality standards, it is safe. And also, as I say, I mean, probably 99% gets used by the trucking business. They utilize them.
Legal? Is it legal?
It's legal, it's safe. And then there's always, I think, a standard in which which is an industry norm, in that they don't put the retreads on the drive tires. It's always probably on your trailer tires, so that because I think the maneuvering of the vehicle and the tires, it doesn't impact that. However, it is safe, it is above board. The tire just needs to be made for that purpose, that it can be retreadable. In South Africa, I think we do have also retreaders in the country. And particularly, again, they focus more on the truck tires or truck business. Yeah.
Yeah, but it can be very, very unsettling knowing that I'm adding a layer of tire on a tire that was worn out. So it really, really is unsettling. In as much as it is safe, but it really is unsettling.
Yeah,
Eh?
I don't know if I see it in passenger. I haven't seen it in passenger cars.
No,
I haven't.
No, it's very less. But maybe probably in a production of a tire. So when you look at a tire itself, when you manufacture a tire, it's layers and components of a thread, of a sidewall, of an inner liner. So those then get what we call like a cooking process, a vulcanization process, where there's a lot of steam and heat to combine all of these components together. So that thread sitting on an inner liner, on the side you've got the sidewall, and then they gel together because of that steam and that pressure that is then applied. That is how a tire is manufactured. So the inclusion or putting on a top layer once, let's say, the tire has worn out, particularly on your trailer tires or truck tires, it's a similar process. They do the same thing, and then it becomes fit for purpose as it was supposed to in any case.
But then what's the lifespan of a retreaded tire?
Again, I think it would depend in terms of utilization of premium tires. Generally, I think the industry norm is that it can be done 2 times or 3 times to rethread the tire. Again, that also depends to say whether it was a premium tire, which probably have more longevity and ability to be able to do that, compared to cheaper products that probably you'd be able to do that once and not again.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Haya, then in terms of, say, I want to buy a car and I want to check whether that car has been involved in an accident or was it stolen before, is it possible to tamper with the VIN number?
So I go back to what I said earlier. Buy a car from a reputable dealership. It's as important as what car you're buying is from where you're buying it from.
Okay,
because
so
they work hand in hand.
Yes.
You know, if the car is stolen and you've bought it from a dealership that, you know, has just come up and then they're not there anymore. Do you know what I mean? Then where are you going to go? What are you going to do? You're going to go to the police. If I buy it from a dealership that's been established and anything goes wrong, whether it's been, and I found out it's been in an accident. And you know when people usually find out a car has had paint work, it's when they sell it, when they're selling it. Now they've had it for 3 years. It's fine, just wear and tear, they've done their services. Now they're selling it and guys come to look at the car and they say, oh, wow, this car's had a lot of paintwork. And you're saying, well, I haven't done the paintwork to this car. So when was it in an accident? I've had that a lot. I've had it come up a lot, where only when they're reselling it do they find out. The best advice I can give someone is go to a reputable place, because things do happen. And you know, cars, it's not like buying a T-shirt. You're buying something that wears and tear. There's wear and tear involved. You want to be able to have a relationship with your dealership. You know, it's a relationship. It's a long-term relationship as well. So if anything goes wrong, you can go back to them and give them the opportunity and say, wow, maybe they bought it and they missed something and unsold it. You want them, they're your first point of call. You want to go back there.
But then in the event that I decide to buy a car from an individual and it becomes a gentleman's agreement, and then I discover that the car has actually been stolen, and then when I look at the VIN number, I see that the VIN number has been tampered with.
So the NATIS papers that you get, so you know that green
NATIS,
paper,
yes.
the VIN number appears there. So everything has to match. Okay. So if the VIN number doesn't match...
So the onus is on you to check the NATIS papers and the VIN number.
Yeah, if it doesn't match, then that's a flag. Like, that's like, oh, wow. Like, the NATIS has to... Everything... That NATIS paper is like title deeds to the car.
Right.
That is ownership of the car. Without the NATIS, you don't own the car. You know, I've had people also where they buy a car and they never change ownership. The car doesn't belong to them. It's not their car until they change the ownership. The papers are someone else's. The tickets are also going somewhere else, by the way.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
yes, of
so
course.
the native paper is very important. That's ownership.
And you're raising a totally different dynamic to this conversation of, driving a car that is not in your name, because it happens all the time, especially if I can't access credit and then I ask you to take the car on credit on my behalf.
So third-party finance is actually not allowed by the bank.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not allowed to, I'm not allowed to finance a car on my name for you because you're a friend and you can't get finance. It's actually not allowed. Because you're driving the car and then something happens with insurance and you roll the car and then I owe the bank. It gets messy. It's a messy area. Third-party finance I don't suggest.
All right, let's leave it there for now. We'll continue our conversation in just a moment. Mugeli, asasiphinde sijikele ngasetitolo hlala kanye nathi ungasanyakadi. Leli ke Yilungelo Lakho. Don't go away. Welcome back. Khumbula ke mbukele ukuthi ke tincingo setivuliwe ukuthi nawe ungashala khona manje ube ingcenye yale nkulumo yethu namhla ungashala icingo khona manje ku 011 714 0669 noma ke ku 011 714 0670. You can also send us a WhatsApp to the number on your screens right now 060 844 9857, or you can interact with us on our online platforms on Facebook and on Twitter. Now, Ntutuzo, just to pick up on the conversation about tires, the market is flooded by, different brands of tires every single day. So what would you advise? Should we go for locally manufactured tires or, those manufactured abroad? Is a brand of tire important? Should we take it into consideration?
Well, I think it's important in the sense that we are South Africans and we've got 4 local tire manufacturers which are based in South Africa. So Bridgestone has a plant here in Brits. We've got Continental and Goodyear situated in Port Elizabeth. And also we've got Sumitomo Rubber, which manufactures Dunlop here in KZN. So I think from an economy perspective, and I think that's what the SATMC does, we are an industry association that looks after these 4 entities from a trade element or policy element, tire regulations, and also environmental policies. So from an economic stance, I would say that yes, they need to support that. But also, I think, be wary of, I think there are imitations or cheap products which imitate the local tire manufacturers or any branded tire for that matter. And people need to know all of these things. And again, I said your Bible for a tire is on the sidewall. There's a number that starts with ECE. And then there's a number that shows that it's gone through the proper quality tests, and it's lasted, and those tests are robust. So to ensure that you are buying a tire which is of proper quality, you need to check all of those things and ensure that you've lined that up for yourself when you purchase even tires themselves. Yeah.
So how do I check an imitation? How do I check if it's legit?
I mean, I think generally you are able to go to the retail shops. That is where I think we always advise to say, for instance, Bridgestone has what we call Super Quick, Continental has Best Drive, Goodyear has High Q, and Sumitomo Rubber has your Dunlop zones. Those are technical guys who are able to then give you the technical advice that you require on the particular tire, and they will tell you to say this tire is no longer fit for purpose because they know all of the intricacies. So we always say go to those guys. Because I think we're finding a lot because of disposable income challenges and people having challenges that people are resorting to purchasing part-worn or what we term second-hand tires on the side of the road, which is dangerous because you don't know the technical history of that tire. And you take it and you put it on your vehicle where your family goes and other family members. I mean, so saving 100 Rand could cost a life.
Right.
No, so those are the dangers.
Yeah, we know that checking a tire, checking a car can be very costly. So can the SAPS do it for you for free?
Sorry?
Like checking the car's history.
Oh, so history, I'm not sure of the question, sorry. Explain.
Like checking the car's history, accident history, and whether it's, the different owners, whether it's been registered.
So I find it quite difficult to get that sort of information. I have to go via to get that sort of information.
Okay.
I can't just get it freely. But when I'm buying a car, I expect to be given that information.
Okay.
I want that information. I want the service history. I would like to know if the dealership is aware that it's been in an accident, which they should, like especially a major accident. If they are the experts, they've bought this car into their stock. They should have done their due diligence to find out. Then I'm buying that car from them. I expect them to give me the information they have at hand.
Okay. So what if I buy the car overseas or outside, beyond the borders? Does the same thing apply?
So I've only dealt with one car that with Kia South Africa. We actually took a car over the border, and we had to go through the clearance with the client. We had to go to the police in Botswana. We sold a car over the border. And it was quite a lengthy process just to ensure all the paperwork was in order. I don't import cars into South Africa. It's not my area of expertise. I've only ever taken one car with Kia. It was a Stinger. We took it to Botswana, and it was quite a lengthy but very smooth process.
Okay.
So the client is actually buying a car that was manufactured here. We took it there. He couldn't get it in Botswana.
Okay.
Maybe simply just to add on that, I mean, I think when you purchase a second-hand vehicle, and it's what we always know is the logbook of the vehicle, the logbook, which is what contains the service history and all of those things. So from a consumer point, purchasing a vehicle, I think those are the sort of things that you would request, even when you're purchasing it from a reputable dealer. You'd ask those questions to say, where is the logbook of this vehicle, which shows the service history. They should be able to pick up, I think, as you said, if it's been in a major accident. And I think when you want to finance that vehicle, I think banks also ask the question to say, has it been involved in an accident? So you have to declare those things. Otherwise, I think that funding won't be allowed if you withhold that information. So the logbook is very important.
There's certain things I say. Does it have a spare key? Are there tools in the car? Is there a service book? Okay, a lot of things nowadays on the newer cars, it's all logged electronically. That means the car has been well looked after. Even the tools, like it sounds like such a small thing. It means the person who sold this car to the dealer has looked after their car. So I know it was generally in safe hands. They're small things, but they're not small things.
If it doesn't have a spare key, what does that mean?
I sold a car without a spare key because I lost it. I lost it. It does happen. My suggestion is replace that spare key.
So it's not a red flag if I walk into a dealership to buy a car without a spare key?
I was careless, I lost my key. Service history for me is like a no. It's like if it doesn't have a service history, I don't want to. It's not for me. Get a replacement key, definitely. Okay. Because when you lose that original, it's such a process.
I can imagine.
It's such a process. So you think, oh, I lost my key. So replace your key, guys. You don't want to be in a situation where you're like, oh, why did I? Because you will think of it late, and when you've lost your original, you're in a pickle.
Yeah, you're in big trouble. Just back to the issue of the logbook. So does it serve the same purpose as the latest papers?
Not necessarily.
What's the difference?
A logbook is a history of, I mean, I think they log the service history or whatever the issues are that's probably been on the vehicle. So
it doesn't reflect the DNA of the car?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
It just gives you to say there's a history. When you purchase the vehicle, it's information or data, if I can so put it, to say this vehicle has gone to a particular dealer to get serviced, that particular service provider for ABC. So that gives you that check, and you're able then to make a determined decision to say, do I want to continue with the service? But however, if it's not there, it doesn't mean that there's tampering of the vehicle. But again, it's to Haya's point, it's just a flag to say, but why are they hiding it, or why is it not there? Indeed. And then you ask those questions.
Yeah.
It's important to note that if a car if it's out of its warranty and it's out of its service plan, you might not go to the agents to service that car. You go to your mechanic, who's fine, he's RMI approved, he services your car. That VIN is not going to link to that service because he's going to stamp your book, oh, I did a 120,000 rand, 20 kilometer service. So no, you can't just go on the VIN with the service. Yes, on the newer cars, yes, you take your car, you buy a BM, it's in its service plan, it's linked to the VIN with BMW, perfect. Absolutely. But once it's out of its service plan and you go into your mechanic, he's not going to log onto a system with your VIN and say, okay, I serviced her car now. So do you understand?
Got you.
A VIN will tell you when the car when the warranty started, what year the car was from the OEM. So from BMW, they will say, okay, Khaya, this warranty started in 2020. That's when the car warranty kicked in. It may have expired by now, but that's when it started.
Okay.
That sort of information you'll get. It was serviced at BMW up until it came out of its plan.
Okay.
After that, it's on the client to make sure that they keep the paperwork.
I heard both of you talk about the OEM. What is an OEM?
OEM is an original equipment manufacturer. So in the automotive space, we generally refer to the car makers, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Ford. So those are OEMs.
Okay, I just needed to check because these big words. Anyway, let's leave it there for now. All right, let's take another commercial break. We'll be right back. Yilungelo, Lakho. Sakumela futhi ke mbukela, our participation lines are still open. Ungasishayela licingo khona manje, and those are your lines right now on your screens. And speaking of lines, let's take our first caller. Sinabatabile ulapha ke Midrand. Sakumela ehleleni sawubona.
Oh, hello baba.
Ninjani mama?
Ngikhona kunjani baba?
Siyaphila, khuluma nathi mama.
Yeah, ngifuna ukwazi nge-VIN number baba. Kusho ukuthi sinomuntu yomuntu owashona, sinamaphepha wonke. Manje bathi mababheka laba bazimoto bathi kunaleli zenke elilangaphakathi i-VIN number. Alikho, ngifuna ukwazi ukuthi singalithola kanjani.
Ngicela uphindze lo mbuto mama, i-VIN number yemuntu lowashona.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Siyabonga kakhulu ukushayela mama. She's basically asking how to get a VIN number of a person who has passed away and the car is registered in that person.
Oh, she wants the VIN number or the NATIS papers. Because where's the car? Because if the car is somewhere, we can find the VIN on the car if the person's passed away.
Well, I'm sure, yeah, I'm sure she's referring to the NATIS paper.
Yeah, so the NATIS paper. So now it's in a deceased person's name. So the NATIS would be registered under this deceased person. So now the estate comes into play. Who was the car left to? Because now you have to change ownership. Okay. So the VIN is on the car, yes, but the NATIS papers, as I said, that's the ownership of the car.
But then, can I buy that car, especially if it's in the name of a deceased person?
No.
You can't.
So I won't buy a car from a deceased person because the person is deceased.
Okay.
And then how am I changing ownership?
Okay, can I then buy it
so it
from
needs to go,
the beneficiaries or the descendants?
Yes, exactly. Now they change
only
it.
if after they've changed it to their names.
Yes, correct. So the beneficiary changes it to their name. So if the car is in a deceased name, the change of ownership must take place into the beneficiary, and then I buy the car from the beneficiary.
Oh, okay.
If I come in, I think there's another element probably to the question, to say that on the windscreen, that's where you find I think the VIN number. It's now no longer visible. So I think one of the suggestions you mentioned earlier was that you can also find it on the door panels of the vehicle. So to match the papers that they currently have to the vehicle so that they prove that the papers they have match with the vehicle, you can also check on the side, or let's say on the door panel of the vehicle to match the two.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what they're saying. So what you find on the windscreen of the vehicle, there's like a block that where the VIN goes. Yeah. Sometimes you find that that falls away. Let's say if depending on the age of the vehicle, or it's gone, like faded, and you can't see the numbers properly. There's also a panel, or let's say the VIN number on the side of the vehicle or the door. Yeah.
There are some cars that use engines interchangeably. So if I were to replace an engine, so I'm going to make a good example of, Toyota, for instance. It's been said that Toyota cars use their engines interchangeably with those of minibus cars like the Quantum, popularly known as Quantum. So what then happens in that particular instance? Because you said that the engine number collaborates or complements the VIN number.
So that's why you need a police clearance. If I'm changing an engine in a car, I need to get the police clearance to say that I've put a new engine or a second-hand engine in this car, and now it's got a new engine to match this VIN. So they must talk to each other.
Okay.
So that prevents the theft of parts.
Yes, indeed, indeed. And then there's this process called, dropping a car's suspension, and it affects the the size of the tire, doesn't it? Do you know anything about that?
So I think probably I'll link it to the stretching of the tires, where I think we're finding it a lot that they do drop the suspension of the vehicle, and then to make the car look sportier or sexier, they then stretch the tires. So again, we are in a process as the SATMC to engage with the Department of Transport to be able to write that into the National Road Traffic Act to say that should be an illegal act, because again, you are stretching the components of the tire makeup, and it's not fit for purpose. And then, I mean, you find that when they go through humps, that they go slowly, because as soon as you hit either a pothole or you hit it rough, you'd find that the tire would then go back to its original makeup.
Really?
And that's dangerous. And I mean, imagine if that happens and you are driving 120 or whatever the case is behind the vehicle. So all of those items are what we are busy trying to advocate and talk to the Department of Transport to write in to say those things are illegal and are dangerous for the consumers.
Tell me something about spare wheel. There's this spare wheel called the biscuit spare wheel that is very, very tiny.
Yeah.
Just how safe is that? Because I've seen so many cars using that spare wheel for a very long time without replacing it.
Well, I mean, they shouldn't be using them for a long time.
And it looks very scary, though.
But it is safe. They come in, I mean, OEM vehicles, or let me say a particular brand of a vehicle. So when you find a biscuit is generally when the car doesn't come, let's say, with a run-on flat tire. What we will then find is that there will be a space saver. That's what it's called. It's a space saver in the boot so that you can maximize on your space. And then that's when you get the biscuit.
But is it the same size as the other tires?
In terms of the width, yes, they are. Not the width in terms, it's a biscuit. However, the size or diameter of it is fit for the purpose of the vehicle. And it comes as a request, or let me say in the process of building the vehicle. So it's safe. I think generally you're only allowed to drive at 80 kilometers per hour on those. And again,
Believe me, I've seen worse.
And again, it should be that you take that and then you go to purchase, or let's say fix if it's repairable, your tire that had an issue, or then you have to quickly sort it out. So it's not meant for you to drive kilometers and kilometers on it. It's supposed to be probably from there to there, and then you fix it the next day, and then you are able to continue with that.
I just don't get how people use it for a very long time, because it looks so weird.
Again, it's to the point of, I think there's challenges in terms of people and affordability, disposable income, and people then resort to measures that are not kosher, if I can so put it in that way, and they resort to pushing the boundaries. And again, I think pushing the boundaries may then cost a life, because you're not doing it in the right way. And it shouldn't be that we compromise on tires that we fit on our vehicles, because our families go on there.
Let's leave it there for now. Let's take our next caller. Sina Morgan, ulapha ke Mamelodi. Sagumudu inhlelo sawubona.
Hi, how are you, sir?
Very well. How are you, sir?
I'm well, thank you.
Speak to us. What's on your mind?
I would like to ask about the tire, actually. Sometimes we drive for 4 years, maybe 3 to 4 years. So someone telling me that the tire is also having a expiry. So is it true?
Or a tire having an expiry?
Yes.
Okay, good question. Good question. Thank you so much for your call. Please continue watching Yilungelo on SABC 1. You'll definitely get your answer after this break. Bugeli, but before that, please look out for special episodes focusing on pension matters and bringing you answers to all your questions, all powered by the Government Employees Fund and Yilungelo Lakho. Asihlangane ke nasisibuya etitolo. Welcome back to our final segment. Ngaphambe kwethi ke siqhubeke mbukele ngendaba yethu ke ngithi ke ngintshele ukuthi ke sesitanilethela ke tindzaba texwayiso nekuphendvula ke yonke ke imibuto yakho lonayo ngako konke ke lokuthenga wena njengemthengi ikakhulukati ke ema-pension nemalungelo akho. Nihlale ke nibukele mbukeli ke kulamalanga lalandzelako. We'll bring you all you need to know about pensions and your rights, and brought to you by the Government Employees Pension Fund and of course Yilungelo Lakho. Now, Duduzo, before that break, we had a caller, Morgan, ulapha eMamelodi. Uyabuta ke Morgan ukuthi Is it true ukuthi ama-tire expire? Do tires have an expiry date?
Expiry date. No, a fantastic question by Morgan. So I referred earlier on to what we know as the date of manufacture, or what we call a DOM. That is the 4 numbers that tell you the week and the year that the tire was manufactured. So that gives an indication of the age of the tire. So on the technical aspects of saying, does a tire expire? No. As again, I think it's a combination of chemicals which are predominantly natural rubber and your synthetic rubber, and then those get vulcanized to create the tire. As the tire ages, those components and how the build-up starts to be compromised depending on the driving conditions, or let me say the infrastructure, the weather conditions, I mean wet, cold, whatever, it's too hot, and then that starts to be compromised. And how you then see that it starts to be compromised is when you start to see cracks on either the sidewall or on the tires itself, then you know, or you start to see that actually now the tire is no longer fit for purpose, or it's good to be used. It starts to compromise that safety element. But technically, we wouldn't say a tire expires per se. It's just that as time goes, that makeup, like any other thing, the makeup of it starts to be compromised as time goes.
Does the expiry have to do with whether the car or the tire has been in use or not?
I mean, generally, the expiry of it, no, but the compromisation of I think, the rubber itself or the component of a vehicle, you'd start to see that probably more if the vehicle is being used, because you're driving on different conditions. But maybe the question is on the spare wheel, probably, that people don't use often. Again, I think we always advise to say you need to also, visually inspect the tire, but you find also that these tires last they can last for 10 years. And what we then do to protect also consumers is that you find that there are warranties that are linked to when you purchase a tire. So customers can then find that comfort to say, I mean, and it's always different from brand to brand. I mean, those are 5 years, 7 years, 8 years to 10 years. And it shows you, I think, the robustness of the quality of the input into a tire. But we wouldn't say a tire itself expires, but it just gets compromised because, I mean, you hit potholes. Today it's sunny, the tire, all of those things then compromise the makeup of the
So basically it can last for 10, 15 years, but still can be in a good condition?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right, Morgan, we certainly hope that you are answered. We certainly hope that that answers your question. Now, Haya, what are some of the common mistakes that people make when assessing a car before buying it?
Common mistakes. I'd say the service history is something they would overlook. People tend to get quite excited about a car, and also they're they get excited about a brand. So, I want to buy a Mini Cooper, and I'm going to buy this Mini Cooper. It's in my budget. But they miss all the small things. They miss where they're buying the car from. Has this car been rebuilt? Yes, it's my dream car, but is it going to be a mess when I take it? Can I afford the upkeep of this car? So these are, like I always say to people, it's great to have the brand, but does it fit your budget? Are you buying it from the right place? The mileage comes into play. Yes, you might want to drive a premium brand, but if it's got very high mileage, it's going to cost you to upkeep that car. So these are, I think, just, take your time as well. And salespeople rush the sale of a car. I need an answer today. It's a big decision. A car is a big purchase for most people. Absolutely. Take your time. Do your homework. Make sure you can afford the upkeep of the car. If you can afford a car that's still in its service plan, take a car still in its service plan. If you're looking at an older car, lower mileage is better for you because it hasn't been used as much. I think it's a big decision, so don't take it lightly. Do your homework.
Absolutely.
Don't get too excited about the brand and the shininess of it.
Because we tend to look at the aesthetics of the car.
That's the thing. We do, and we get excited about these nice, pretty things. But, as you say, they're hidden secrets. So do your homework. Ask 100 people. Ask anyone. If you have a mechanic friend, take him with you to see the car. Test drive the car. Guys, don't buy cars without seeing them and online and pay deposits to people you don't know, because I have that, that happens where someone says, well, I paid a deposit to these people and it seemed so good to be true. Trust me, it's too good to be true. And they're gone. The money's gone, the dealership's gone, they're gone.
And those people tell you that they can only deliver the car if you pay a deposit.
Be careful of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, be careful. That's probably a scam.
Yeah.
Not definitely, but
So,
probably.
Dr. Rizzo, what is it that we need to consider before buying new tires or replacing tires?
Again, I think I referred to making it easy for people to purchase the tires, and because of the pressures of the economy at the moment, people see it as a good idea to purchase on the side of the road. We did a study, I think in 2021, 63% of the tires that we bought on the side as SATMC, so that we're able to test, were actually illegal. So that means that 6 out of 10 tires were actually illegal that were bought on the side of the road. So those are the things. I mean, even if you purchase a vehicle, you need to be mindful of those things. Check the tires and ensure that you buy them at a reputable, I've mentioned the 4, that you can go to so that you get technical advice.
I wish we could go on and on and on. Well, conversation is getting interesting as we wrap it up. But thank you so much for your time. We do appreciate your time.
Thank you
Great
for having
stuff.
us.
Let me thank my studio guests for making time to be on the show this afternoon. In the next coming weeks, Yilungelo Lakho, in collaboration with the Government Employees Pension Fund, Pegdeleti EGEPF, will be empowering you with information pertaining to pension matters. From me, Simpio Ngongane, and the rest of the team, to have a great week ahead. Cheers.